Welcome in to the Pipeline Podcast. This is episode 2. We've already had the first episode under our belts here as we get closer to the season.
That's how we got to 2.
Yeah, exactly. Go from 1 to 2. My math skills still strong in the off season. But since we talked last, we had a player announcement come through. It was Alex Crom. Of course, he's a fan favorite this year. Another player that's a veteran being added in. As of course, we know that once you hit 260, you're becoming a veteran. Obviously, that season has to finish. But just to talk a little bit about bringing Alex Crom back and what the decision making was like there, and what you're kind of expecting from him. Obviously, we have a pretty good idea of what kind of player he is. But is there anything that you may want him to focus on, or a reason that you specifically brought him in?
Well, Cromer, obviously, a couple of years ago, let's go back in history here with the Oilers. The year that we went to the conference final against Toledo, him, Henniger, and Samper were, a really, really solid line. And they were a big part of us winning the Mountain Division, a big part of us going as far as we did in the playoffs. You can look at Dosty, you can look at Perfetto, and definitely we're big, kind of the glorified guys that year, where you need the guys in the trenches, and those guys were phenomenal that season. The following season, my hands got tied right at the end of training camp with St. Louis sending Dakota Joshua down the day before I had to set our opening day roster. And unfortunately, I ended up trading Cromer to Toledo. And then, a roundabout way, he ended up back with us here and given the opportunity to bring him back. And, he's been a great soldier. I mean, you really can't put a value on that. And, one of the things that I think that he could bring a little bit more and more consistently. And we had this discussion, him and I, at the end of the season, where maybe he wasn't as feisty as he had been in the past last season. He got off to a good start. He was actually, getting points every night, which was great, but it's not what I'm necessarily looking for from Alex Crom. But on the good nights last season, I mean, he was rocking guys and mixing it up. But to be quite honest, I don't know that we saw that consistently enough out of him, which was his calling card from years before. So, and he knows it. We had that discussion. I remember the exit meeting at the end of the season, and it just, his face when I brought it up to him, he just kind of gave it like, yeah, I know, type thing. So, I love having him on the team. He's a fantastic. I mean, along with a couple of these guys that have been around for a while, you grow a relationship outside of hockey. Crom, Pleshkash, Mckee, I can honestly say these guys are my friends. And yes, I'm their boss when it comes down to it, but I really lean on these guys. There's a lot of times during the season where, I'll be at crossroads about a player, about different things, and I'll bring them in and I'll use them as a sounding board and get their opinion on what I might be thinking, and a lot of times by the time they leave my office, I've got it all hashed out, and they really are supportive of what I do as a coach, be it system-wise or just demands that I have. That they're very familiar with me, and that goes a long way. And those 3 guys, the returning guys from last year, the only 3 that came back from 2 years ago, are really our core unit that we want to build around, and Alex remains that guy. And there's things to improve every year, and he's quite aware of where we stand, him and I, and how things are going to shake out.
And to shortly sort of build on Alex Crom a little bit, I mean, this is a guy that put up career numbers offensively last year, which is nice to get, on top of being somebody that you've spoken very highly of as far as being able to help command a locker room, right? I mean, you get a handful of rookies every year in this league. Is he a guy that you essentially at this point now not only expect to help lead a locker room in that regard, but just know that he will, talking about his character in the past?
Yes, I mean I don't even that doesn't even cross my mind that will be there with Cromer, and he's that guy, and there's a lot of times I don't see what happens within the room or away from the rink, that I know these guys police it to their best ability, and I know Cromer's that guy that has that presence that can do that. Jackson Leaf's another guy, and I mean, you're talking about all the veterans that we do have, and there's the four, that they're all veteran players. As Zack mentioned, once you hit 260 games at a pro level, and there's caveats to that, but where games in lower leagues in Europe don't count. The SPHL games don't count towards your 260. But once you reach 260, either at the ECHL, American League, obviously NHL, you become a veteran at our level, and you can only carry four at our level, veteran-wise. And it's funny because you get guys that you think have been around forever and are still short of that 260. Dylan Sadoway's a good example. He just seems to have been in the league forever, yet he's still just shy of that. He'll cross that real quick, but once if you cross it mid-season, it doesn't go towards your veteran situation. But getting back, really your question, they demand a lot of respect. None of them, I wouldn't say fall into the character or the I guess my mindset. I was more, as a leader, I was more of a in-your-face type guy. These guys are more subtle as far as that goes, but when they do take a stance on something, I mean, what they say is heard within the room and well received.
We've reached out and got some questions from the fans. I think in future episodes, depending on how many of these we get, we may have just a segment or maybe put them in kind of where they flow. And I think this might kind of fit in with the question from Brendan Paul, which is for you, Coach. What are the most important factors while recruiting players? And maybe I mentioned that he put speed, age, talent, all these different things that they might bring in size and toughness. And of course, there's certain attributes that you already mentioned with Alex Crom. And of course, he comes from a hockey family as well, where his dad's been a coach at this level in the AHL as well. Of course, his granddad, won the Jack Adams Award. And when talking to players that have either had a pro dad or a pro coach, is that a big factor sometimes in being helpful for a player as they turn into a pro? And then just kind of back to the original question, what are some things that you're looking at, especially maybe with the rookies that are coming through that you maybe haven't gotten an eye on yet?
For me, pedigree is a thing. It's very for me, I look at my two boys and I think that their time spent around me, around having the access to things that the average hockey player really doesn't. Just being around pro players, being around the rink, and getting a feel for what it takes as a youth hockey player coming up, and seeing what the pros do and how they handle themselves, how they carry themselves. I think pedigree is a big thing, and I think that was, I don't know when your press release came out about Cromer's grandfather and his sister, and it was a fun fact, whatever day of the week it was for me. I had no idea. I know Rich Crom, his dad, and I know each other. We've coached against each other. We played against each other, so I know him very well. I had no idea about his grandfather or his sister, so like I said, it was a fun fact Tuesday on that day. But to the question, what I look for, first and foremost, you're looking to fill needs. Be it, we need a scoring winger, we need a bigger centerman. These are the things that are kind of on your wish list. Not particularly what I'm looking for this summer, but that I'm just using that as an example. Do we need a right-handed defenseman? Do we, we need to potentially have 3 goalies at training camp. These factor into the way you're building your team. You're not just grabbing players to grab players, and so you're building your board a certain way. One of the things for sure, though, and I do my due diligence in trying to get to the bottom of this is character. Like there's been guys that have come through here that maybe I didn't do enough homework on, that you just see that their character was not where it needed to be. And so when I'm doing my research on players, yeah, it's nice to watch film. It's great to look on elite prospects or hockey DB and see where their stats were, where they played, and kind of get a background on the player themselves. Yet finding out from former teammates, former coaches, what kind of kid is this? And nobody, when it's all said and done, nobody really wants to throw anybody under the bus, but guys will be pretty straightforward. I mean, the bad reviews are like he's a cancer. He's horrible. Like he's his off ice antics or whatever. Like you find these things out, and basically that steers me away from that player, because a lot of times, Zach, you've got player, and we've talked about this before. You've got player A, player B. They're comparable in all facets of the game. Well, character A or player A is got bucket loads more character than player B. Well, who are you going to go with? And I don't think I'm alone on this. That's majority of coaches, I'm sure, approach it this way. I think that a lot of times too that coaches can be too cocky and say, there's some red flags there, but I can change him. He'll be different with me. And my experience, you don't change. Guys don't change, and I've seen that over and over through the years. So character, playing wise, we're looking for speed. We're looking. You gotta play with a certain edge. It doesn't mean you have to be a fighter. It doesn't mean you have to be a guy that's going to hit everything that moves out there. But you can't be scared. And it's remarkable for me to even say that somebody at this point playing professional hockey, you can see it. I mean, I can see it really quick that if a guy's timid out there, he's not willing to, as you hear, it's a buzzword, all go to the dirty areas. I mean, all these cliches that are in hockey, I don't particularly like, and buzzwords that seem to catch on. Yet it stands the truth. I mean, the dirty areas of the rink, they talk about in front of the net. Well, for me, the dirty areas a lot of times are the corners. And if you're not willing to go in or try to be first into the corner, it is very evident to me quickly if that's the type of player you are. And we look for that certain edge, certain toughness that players are supposed to bring. And I so far this summer, I believe the group that I've put together, is going to have that. And we don't have any guys that you just shake your head and he can't compete at this level because he doesn't have enough compete.
And one new factor, I guess you could say, with recruiting as of recently has been expansion, right? I mean, last year we had 2 expansion teams get added into the fold in the ECHL. Savannah, they're up next, right? And there's even rumors, of course, of the ECHL wanting to expand even more so. I mean, quickly getting to that 32-team idea of trying to be affiliated fully with the NHL, right? And is there a major factor that expansion brings into the fold? And what's your experience, I guess, been in watching teams try to add players as a brand new franchise and sort of thinning out the pool, I guess, to a little bit of an extent with brand new teams?
Well, last summer was an anomaly, really. I mean, as far as recruiting went, because you go back 2 years now, and the NCAA gave the 5th year to their everybody. And when I heard the rule come out, I thought it was just the seniors that were going to get a 5th year because the 1 year, the COVID year, was washed out, and so they gave everybody from freshmen to seniors that fifth year. And what you saw last summer was that there just was not a player pool. It was dried up by July. And so a lot of us, including the Oilers, we were scrambling throughout the whole summer. I mean, I was, getting back to recruiting, and I said, you just don't grab players. I was just grabbing players at times last year because I didn't have enough. Like we're mid-August. I had like 11 guys signed. I had to make a team. I mean, I had to find a way to have a training camp. And it was very disturbing last summer as far as recruiting went. Not just for me, there was a time early August where I had other coaches call me and say, "Are you having trouble?" And it was kind of it didn't change that it didn't get any easier, and there wasn't all of a sudden a bunch of players appear, but everybody was having trouble, and we all kind of took a collective sigh and said, "Oh, it's happening to everybody." Again, didn't make it any better, but it was a situation throughout the league. You got Savannah coming in this year. Now, the difference being, Luke, to your question, is that now we've got a deeper player pool. With now those fifth-year seniors are done; they cannot go back. So the trickle down from that COVID year has now gotten back, I guess, to normal. Even though those 4 years of college that were there 2 years ago, all those guys have the opportunity to play a fifth year. But now the fifth year guys, like there was, that last year was the first year of that fifth year player, and so there's a lot more players available. Canadian college is really starting to get a lot of traction as far as more and more players coming out of Canadian college. That has been I've seen that develop. It's been in the works for a few years where, I think we are looking as coaches, as a league, that is a recruiting place that maybe, I'll tell you right now, when I first started in this league, it really wasn't where you went. It was the NCAA route more than anything, and so the percentages are starting to sway a little bit more guys that are coming out of the Canadian colleges. So the player pool is deeper. I wouldn't say it's back to normal, quite honestly, again, 3 or 4 years ago. Let's just call it pre-COVID. I don't think it's back yet to where it was, the standards, but it is getting better. And so I think that the recruiting right now is a little bit easier this summer. I mean, we've got, outside of you haven't announced all the signings yet. We have a full roster right now, and I can look back at this date last summer, and I was sweating. I really was. I mean, there was nobody, and then even when you got your hooks into somebody, inevitably you get the phone call and say, "I've decided to go back for my fifth year. I've transferred," or because all these guys, the other option that they have is to go into the transfer portal at the NCAA level, and a lot of guys took advantage of that. Now, not everybody got picked up by another team, but you see, like you look at Eric Dopp that we signed. He plays 4 years at one school and he finishes his fifth year at Boston College. So he transferred, and there's a lot of other guys that have a similar track record that you're looking at there. Again, elite prospects or hockey DB, and they've kind of jumped around a little bit. So pool is a little deeper, yet not. I don't think it's where it used to be a couple of years ago, but it's getting better.
Take a quick break here. We get some updates from the events coming up over the next few weeks, and when we return, we'll have a quick message from returning defenseman Alex Palmerville on why he decided to come back.
Beat the summer heat by spending your Friday nights at the Tulsa Oilers Ice Center, the coolest place in Tulsa. Join us every Friday night this summer for cool indoor skating fun for the entire family. Sign up today for Learn to Skate and hockey lessons. Enjoy live music along with on-ice games, prizes, and a special glow-in-the-dark skate. Cool off this summer every Friday night at the Tulsa Oilers Ice Center. Admission is only $10, located near 64th and Mingo.
Indoor football is back, Tulsa, and you can win season tickets now by helping name the team. Name the team? Yes, name the team. Go to TulsaIndoorFootball.com. That's TulsaIndoorFootball.com. Cast your vote now. Indoor football returns in March. BOK Center, Saturday nights, 7 p.m. Don't miss your chance to experience the fast-paced, helmet-hitting, pad-popping excitement of indoor football. Go to TulsaIndoorFootball.com for a chance to name the team, win season tickets, and more information. Name the team! Yes, name the team!
Alex Palmerville. I decided to come back to Tulsa. I wasn't there all season, but while I was there, just the fans and the atmosphere at the BOK were absolutely incredible. Every home game we had. And about next year, we definitely really started to play well towards the end of the year. Very excited about getting some of the younger guys back and seeing what we can do for next season. Thanks.
Welcome back into the Pipeliner podcast. As kind of leaning right into this, we're talking about the recruitment and recruitment pools. Some fans noticed the other day, Doogie LeGrone, Tanner Lashinsky, and Joe Gareffa all heading overseas. Last summer, we saw kind of a ton of that for your team specifically and the league. I always thought maybe some of that had to do with the bubble. Maybe guys wanted to get a year in Europe after being jammed up in their apartment all season, but less so this team this year. But some of the other teams in the league have lost a lot of guys to Europe, especially here in the Mountain Division. Do you think that, especially now that the EIHL and Slovakia are both leagues where these players went, do you think there's more options overseas now for ECHL level players, where before it kind of seemed maybe more of a AHL heavy when it was the Russian Super League and the Swedish League and German League only? Are there just more opportunities for guys to head over there now?
I think it's a maturation of our league, quite honestly. I mean, we've gotten better. And you're right, like these teams in Europe were laden heavy with former American League players. And I think that the talent level at our level at the ECHL level has gotten better. What did I say, level? Like 8 times just then? Has gotten a lot better. And they recognize this. And that's where I think their recruiting has potentially maybe focused on the ECHL a lot heavier in the last few years than maybe in the past. Tanner Lashinsky kind of gave us the heads up at the end of the year that he was either going to become a fireman back in Saskatchewan or Alberta, or he's going to go and try to get his master's over in Europe in the British League, and that's where he ended up in Nottingham. And then Doogie, actually, that was a big surprise to me. I didn't expect to lose Doogie LeGrone, and he signed with Nottingham also. And Gary Graham, who's former coach in Fort Wayne, that's been out of our league for 2 or 3 years. He got the job there in Nottingham, and he reached out to a couple of other players on our I won't say who, but that trying to get him. And I don't know why he's focusing on our team so much, but regardless of that, you lose guys every year. I think getting back to Luke's question before, that was one of the reasons last year too. I mean, you got Hamonic, you got Lane, you got McNulty, Williams. Broussard. I mean, there was, along with the guys that we lost back to their teams, Taylor and Cockrell and Saucier. I mean, day one in the summer, and we had lost half to 2/3 of our lineup, and so the money's better. The season is shorter, games wise. So you're looking at a grind here in the ECHL of 72 games, and over there they're playing 40, maybe 50 games a season depending on their tournaments. But it's always, I think it's attractive for players. The British League offers that they'll pay for your master's. And if you're a college graduate, be it CIS or NCAA, you could go over there and play for 2 years and get your master's degree. I think that's a big draw for a lot of guys, and so it's competitive. I mean, you're you're fighting for the same players, not only at our level. Like recruiting at our level. Whenever I talk to somebody, whether I'm first to talk to them or 10th to talk to them, everybody's chasing the same guys, and that goes for the European teams too. And so we've got a player that hasn't been signed, but he played in Europe last year straight out of Canadian college, but just decided to come back and try here. I think what you get is the younger guys that still have the dream of playing at American League level and/or playing in the NHL, and some guys that come to the basically the ugly truth is I'm not good enough to do that. I get it, and they're realists. They understand that, and then the next step is, well, where can I make more money? And when you're over there, for our salary structure, guys are making, if they're lucky, they're making maybe 18,000 here. You can make 40,000 over there, and that's a small contract and so I can see where it's attractive to go if you've lost the dream and you just want to play hockey and finish out your career over there and potentially get your master's. So the competitiveness within our own league to kind of chase the same guys, it's there. It's now kind of gotten a lot harder with the European teams. Like you mentioned Joe Garaffa. Joe and I had a discussion in the year, and he had no intentions of going over to Europe. And yet, I got to believe whatever team in Austria that he signed with probably just gave him a deal that he couldn't refuse. And good for him, and I think his game is really set for that kind of hockey over there, and he'll have a lot of success. And it's a stepping stone. He goes to Austria, has a really good year. Maybe he ends up in the DEL, which now you're making, it's really, really good money. I mean, that's a top league in Germany that pays a very good salary, and so I'm sure maybe that's his ultimate goal, is to keep moving up in the divisions in Europe, and it's, I think one of the things for me, you've got the British League and a couple of other ones that, I mean, just as a person, I'd be concerned about some of the other leagues being so close,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dead honest truth to
Right.
the war in Ukraine. What's it like over there in Poland? Some of those, Slovenia, like some of these bordering countries that might be touched with this, and you're there as a Canadian American playing hockey. I'd be a little concerned, honestly. I mean, it would be something that I'd have some concern with. Great Britain, France, I think you're okay there. But who knows? I mean, you just never know how in real world situations that are going on in the world right now.
And speaking upon players that still have that dream, to go to the NHL, to make their debut, if not make a career out of the NHL. You're looking at your affiliated guys, at least on paper, maybe that dream is more realistic right now for some of these guys. One division that's been shaken up quite a bit is the Mountain Division, with affiliations all the way up to the NHL. You've got Wichita losing that affiliation with the Oilers, that going to Fort Wayne. You've got Allen, who was the first ECHL affiliate of the new Seattle Kraken. And now Kansas City's got Seattle. What does that look like for you in this division right now? You've got teams like Idaho that are fortunate enough to have the relationship with Dallas like they've had for so long, that you kind of know what you're getting, or at least you have an idea going into the season what you're going to get as far as help from the AHL, help from even the NHL contracted guys. What does that look like for the Mountain Division in your opinion this year?
I really don't know that it's changed that much. I believe Calgary's going to Rapid City. And it really is. It's a toss-up. I mean, you don't know how many guys you're going to end up getting. It's always nice to talk to your affiliate in the summertime, and they'll say, well, we've got this many guys that are coming your way. Inevitably, throughout training camp, something happens, injuries, whatever. By the time the month of September is over, you've got, they've already gone through development camp. You've got rookie tournament in San Diego's playing in a tournament in San Jose. Then you've got the big camp. Then you've got American League camp, and then you've got the ECHL camp. So, like the month of September, these guys at any time will be at 3 or 4 different camps, and you just never know how it's all going to shake out. I've gotten some very good direction, quite honestly, from Anaheim. I talked to Bob Ferguson, who's the assistant GM in San Diego, on Friday for a long time, and as of right now, they have got planned to have a really good group of guys down here. Again, that's today. This is prior to anybody hitting the ice, and I'm looking forward to what he has proposed. But being also a realist, I know it's going to, a number that has been given to me will probably be slashed by 2 or 3 when it's all said and done. So you as a coach at this level, you always have to recruit with the mindset that you do not have an affiliate, because when it's all said and done, and you can look at us as an example. When the puck dropped last year, first game, we did not have an affiliated player playing in our lineup, and we had 3 at training camp, but they all got recalled before the season started, and so you just never know what might happen. Like you got Prince, Golod, and LaRose playing in the 2 Wichita exhibition games last year, looking like world beaters, and you're sitting there going, we're looking good. Get a phone call the next morning, and they're gone. And so, they didn't even last training camp here. So you just never know, Luke. So my answer to you, yes, affiliations change. I don't know that it strengthens or weakens a team. Time will tell, right? On who they get, who we get. I'm a strong believer of the fact that your affiliated players make you a stronger team, and you don't have to look any further than the teams that continue to be strong teams at our level every year in, year out. You mentioned Idaho and Dallas. Well, Salt Lake with Colorado. You look at Game 7. The lineups change throughout the year, yet, or even in the playoff series. But Game 7, we with Mckee hurt, you could quasi call Manella a contracted guy, but he got signed by San Diego 3/4 of the way through the season. So, all right, sake of argument, we had one player, being Danny Manella, in our lineup that was a contracted guy. Mckee was hurt at the time. And then Joe, he was contracted with San Jose, yet that was through a trade at our level. So, again, you're kind of splitting hairs here. They had 8 Utah had 8 players in their lineup, Game 7, that were contracted players with either the NHL or the American Hockey League. And I'm not crying poor. I'm not saying, but it's timing. It really is. The year that we went to the conference final against Toledo, we got loaded up at the end of the season, and it's not a big mystery. Like, you're going to be better with more contracted players from your affiliation. How that all plays out for us, for Allen, for Kansas City, for Rapid City, as I said, time will tell. It's not just new to us with San Diego, Anaheim. It's the same way with every team. So you just never know, and until opening night, we'll see how that looks.
Seems like a good time to ask John Horton's question then. Since we're talking about affiliations, and we just talked about Joe Garaffa. He's with San Jose. He spent more time on his AHL contract in the ECHL, but did get some time up with the Barracuda. And John Horton was wondering, why is it that he kind of maybe struggled to stick in the AHL, because he saw how he was playing down here, and he looked amazing, and then now has decided to go overseas. Do you think maybe with his size that overseas is maybe a place more tuned to his game? Or, are there other factors? And do you think that maybe you could see a return for him to the American League level at some point?
I think right there you've hit the nail on the head. He's too small, and Joe is not going to grow. Like he's 5'8", if that. He's a water bug out there. I mean, he made the difference for us, not only in the playoffs, but to get us in the playoffs. I would never regret the trade I made to get him. It was, you live for today at this level. You're not looking for developing. Your development is basically the team you have on any given year. So when we made the trade for Joe, I knew it was time for us to make sure that we made the playoffs, and he made all the difference. And stats don't lie. I mean he won games for us down the stretch. The ultimate answer to the question, I believe, being a hockey guy, is he's just too small. And what he can do at our level, it's just ramped up at the next level. And guys are bigger, stronger. And it's hard for a guy to have success with his size at that level. Now, I'm not at liberty to say how he was perceived in San Jose, whether, when he did play there, did he play on the fourth line and not get much ice time? I would assume so. Maybe he wasn't put in the right position to have success, but ultimately he's too small. And you can almost look at a situation, another player that we've had, Steve Perfetto. Like Perf was head and shoulders above the majority of players at our level, but when he was in San Antonio, he was just average, he was just okay. And again, I think what he could do here, just bigger, stronger, faster at the next level, it didn't equate, and wasn't able to have as much success at the higher level that he will here.
And this next question, it doesn't necessarily have to lean too analytical, but contrasting some players like Joe Garaffa and, say, like a Mike Mckee, we've got some fans that are kind of interested to see what type of sticks and flexes, guys at the pro level use. And you've got a player like Joe Garaffa that uses, I believe, something along the lines of a 55 flex. And then you've got Mike Mckee, who some describe as essentially swinging a 2x4 out there with his flex. And just the difference in size for players, and how really sticks have evolved here over the past couple of decades at minimum. And just your thoughts on the professional level with using a stick that fits your game.
Well, today's player is so much more informed on all that stuff, and I'll use myself as a reference to my days playing. And I was talking to my son Zack the other night. Landon's been teaching him how to sharpen skates this summer, and so for those that don't know what flex means in a hockey stick, so there's stiffness, and it's in each individual stick, and most guys are around an 85 flex, and so the higher you go, the heavier or less flex you're going to get in a stick. Mike Mckee, I think, uses either 100 or 110. As you said, Joe Garaffa was probably down 65, 55. And that gives you a whippier stick. A guy that's more skilled tends to use a heavier flex. When I played, I used a heavier flex because of face-offs. Like I was used quite often, and it was one of my attributes as a player. I was very good on face-offs. I needed a heavier flex to be stronger on face-offs. So I used a heavier flex that way. But most guys have kind of now come to about a 85. That's probably the majority of guys use right around that level. Like I said, Mike's got a heavier stick, but that's the way Mike plays. So a lot of it is based on the way you play, the type of player you are. And I use a heavier flex because I wouldn't break it so easily when I cross-check guys, right? So there's another reason why I use a heavier flex. It hurt more when I cross-check guys. And so the one thing about the flexes and all this and the one-piece sticks, the evolution of sticks in general, I mean, it's a science. It really is. And they've gotten to a point where, they don't necessarily break as easily. I remember back when I was with Providence and the first couple of years where we went to total, like everybody had to use one pieces and we were breaking, guys are breaking sticks usually at the most inopportune time, whether it be a opportunity at the net or a defenseman teeing up for a one-timer and his stick breaks and the guy goes on a breakaway the other way. And there was shopping carts full in the equipment manager's room of broken sticks. And back then, in order to get a replacement stick, you actually had to send the broken stick back to CCM or whoever was supplying us at the time. So sticks in general have gotten a lot better. We use primarily we have a deal with Warrior, and their sticks have gotten better and better year after year. And so again, the science of hockey, the science of equipment has gotten so much better. And I was telling a story, getting back to what I was saying to Zachary. When I played, I didn't know what depth I got my skate sharpened at, and so it was late in my career, and I got traded from Phoenix to Edmonton. So at the time I was in Springfield, and I moved on to Hamilton. So I got to Hamilton, and the equipment manager, Murray Stevens, he says, "How do you like your skates? Like, what do you get them sharpened at?" I looked at him and I said, "I don't know. I get them sharpened." And he said, "Well, what depth?" And I'm like, "I don't, like, I was right. Dumbfounded. I was like, "I don't know. I just got them sharpened," right? So luckily enough, he took my insole out. And my trainer and my equipment manager, Ralphie Calvanese in Springfield, had put in 1/2 in the sole of my with a Sharpie. So Murray says, you're a 1/2. Now it's like 5/16, 7/12. I don't even know. Like I'm still not, and it comes down to a lot of the deeper. The hollow, you get better glide, you better grip, different things like that. But that's where I really was kind of in the dark about what I used or how how I got my skate sharpened, and so I'm a 1/2 inch, and that's what I know I'm at now. But I learned that. Literally, I played 16 years. That was my 14th year. And so it's kind of neat. And it goes back to the sticks. Like it's a real science now. And players, here's the thing. Today's player is aware of all this, where I just showed up and played and, used what I had. So hopefully that answers your question.
We talked about new faces affiliation-wise, but of course, a new coach coming into the division in Chad Costello, and obviously you're familiar with him as a player. And after your playing career, you were an assistant in Providence, and then became the head coach, and then came to the ECHL. With him, he's coming straight into a head coaching position. Can you just go through what it was like making the transition from a player to a coach for you, and kind of what your opinion would be, or what you think it's like maybe for a guy that is going straight in from playing to a head coach role, because it obviously must be a lot of change.
It is, and Chad's not the only one in the league either. We got Peter MacArthur, same deal, stepping right out of playing in Adirondack, and we got Jordan Lavely Smotherman in Worcester. Same deal. Like, you've got 3 guys that this season were players on those particular teams last season that are now the head coach. New to me. I mean, it's very, very rarely you see something like that happen. I think Chad's got a lot of things probably that I went through as an assistant coach my first year, and one being is your frustration is kind of points to I can do it better. I honestly I was on the bench multiple nights. I just wanted to go get dressed and go get out there because I knew at that point I was 36, 37, but I just stepped out of playing that I think I could have probably done it better than what the guys were doing on the ice. And that's you got that urge to play again because you're so close to where you were and when you played. That eventually wears off, and that as time went on, I got away from that. But I know my first year, boy, it was I just literally wanted to jump on the ice. I think that was my biggest transition is trying to get myself away from thinking that I was still a player, and now I was coach wearing a suit behind the bench every night. And so, to me, that was my biggest adjustment. I think that the other thing too is that you don't actually, when you're a player, I remember thinking practice is over, coach is going home, that kind of thing, and there is so much more work to do in the game, and so much more at the ECHL level than there is at the American League level. And you're tasked with a lot of things that you don't have any control of at the American League level. And I've said it to you guys before. You go to the American League level, you're there to coach. I mean, that's all you do. You don't recruit. You don't do any of the getting things together, immigration. There's nothing that you do other than your job as a hockey coach. And so, but I wear many hats here. Yet during the season, my days are long at times. They're not filled. I'm not sitting at my desk pounding away for 6 hours in a row. But there's video to watch. There's video to cut. There's things to do. Practice preparation, travel. There's a lot of things that come into play that I think I had no idea as a player. When I remember when I interviewed for my first job, I remember saying that I'll stay on the ice as long as you want, after practice. If certain guys wanted to work on things, I'll stay out there. I'll stay out there all day for that matter. But I kind of honestly, I was naive enough to think that's all I had to do. But it was an eye opener to me when I became a coach at how much there actually goes into coaching, and be it a game day or just preparation for games and practices. That it's time consuming. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm shackled to the desk for 8 hours, but there's a lot of work, and that's one of the things that I along with getting away from thinking I was still a player or I could do it better than the players that I had, was the fact that the workload was a lot more than I had expected.
And to sort of leave the fans looking ahead a little bit, we can recap some of the big dates that we've seen here in the offseason that have already gone by as far as player signings, things like that, and then some important dates ahead. I mean, I think we'll essentially blink and we'll be playing, Allen in a preseason game here soon. And so, what's left on the table here that the fans can look forward to as far as the offseason before we get rolling in October?
Well, I don't know. You guys start sending out press releases of who we've signed. I mean, I've done my work. It's in your court now. Actually, nothing really. I mean, it's pretty smooth sailing from there's no major dates that are on the calendar that I could speak of. we're still, there's still tinkering to go. I mean, I'm still talking to agents. I'm talking to players. Again, where there's that communication with our affiliate and getting guys. They have given us a handful of training camp spots to fill with players, and that there's not enough to go around for everybody. So that's got to be picky and choosy on my end. So there's a lot. We've gotten our immigration all together. Housing is probably next on our list, which I can honestly admit I'm not really involved with that part of it. It's kind of not just smooth sailing from this point on, other than there's really nothing on the docket that is going to happen other than American League camps, rookie tournaments, those kind of things that the players, hopefully I can get a couple of guys from our roster at those events, and then we're looking at training camp ourselves, within just less than 2 months.
And to wrap things up, just sticking with that, with San Diego and Anaheim, and of course with other affiliations in the past, the Traverse City tournament for the Central Division, of which you've coached in, and of course going just out to Anaheim and checking out camp, and of course you were mentioning they have the preseason tournament in San Jose. Will you be making your way out to the left coast at some point here, coming up in the next, or I guess before the season starts?
I definitely hope so, and I've actually, I would like to go, if I had my choice. I'd like to go to the rookie tournament. American League camp last year, going out, the American League, they have the American League camp, San Diego does, in Anaheim, so I was out there the past 2 years. If I had my choice, I'd like to go to the rookie tournament, and the reason being is that way I could get good eyes on players that they've got penciled in to come our way. And the other thing too is, through the years, when I went to Traverse City, I went to Traverse City every year with St. Louis. Ended up coaching the 1 year, the team that, there's a lot of good players that came off that team. Jordan Kyrou, Robbie Thomas, like guys that, went on to do really good things in the NHL and will continue to do really good things in the NHL. Tage Thompson, there was a good group. That was a really good hockey team that I coached in Traverse City that year. With St. Louis, but I guess, so getting back to Traverse City, I've had a certain amount of success with finding other players that are on tryouts at those tournaments. Olivier Archambault, that ended up being an excellent player at our level, played for me in Alaska 1 year, and that's where he was playing for Minnesota at the time at rookie tournament, and he stood out to me watching the games, just scouting the games, and he got released at the end of the Traverse City tournament. I called his agent right away and found out who his agent was and had him signed in Alaska like the next day. I was actually surprised at how easy it was, because I thought he was a really good player, and I wasn't wrong. I mean, he was really good. Mike Mckee is another example. He was there. Now, he was there on a tryout with St. Louis. But that's all, and he actually, quite honestly, and truth be told, they brought him in to be protection and to fight. And so I think if you play 4 games, I think Mike played 2 of the 4 games in that rookie tournament. But I got to know him a little bit there and being around him, and I offered him a contract here. And, history shows that he's become he's become a rock for us, so my point being is, if I had my choice to go to an American League camp or the rookie tournament, if it was one or the other, I would definitely like to go to the rookie tournament. I think it's more valuable to me than American League camp.
Well, that is episode 2 of the Pipeline Podcast in the books. Of course, thank you to everybody who submitted questions for this episode. You'll be able to comment down below, and we can ask them on future episodes, and we'll also link to an email you can send them to as well. But, Murr, thanks for coming on as always, and we'll catch up on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.